Good afternoon. May I request lighting of the ceremonial lamp, please? Thank you. Well, welcome to the Memorial Art Gallery. My name is Sarah Jesse. I'm the new-ish director of MAG, and I'm delighted that all of you could join us for today's special presentation made possible by the Dogra Art Foundation. The founder of the foundation is here with us today, Dr. Vikram Dogra, who is a wonderful friend, very generous to the museum, and a real champion of South Asian art. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Dr. Vikram Dogra.
Thank you for a wonderful introduction, and it's always my pleasure to be part of this a beautiful institution which is doing so much for the community, and we take pride to be part of it. And thank you for allowing us to be part of this in all this and other endeavors which we are involved with. As you all know, art possesses a remarkable power to surpass the boundaries of geography, language, and culture, uniting us in celebration of our cherished and shared humanity and rich tapestry of diverse viewpoints that bring us together today. With this sentiment in mind, I extend a heartfelt welcome to every one of you, extending a special gratitude to our esteemed guest, Congressman Joe Morelli, the Indian Consul, Shruti Pandey, who represents not only the Consulate of New York, but Government of India, and Sibbu Nair, the Director of Asian Affairs from the Kathy Hochul's office. I am deeply appreciative of the dedication and effort of both Memorial Art Gallery team and Dogra Art Foundation team, whose hard work and collaboration have made this event possible. Together, let us revel the beauty and inspiration that art offers, knowing that it is a beacon of unity and understanding in our world. Welcome to all of you. With this, we would like to invite our Honorable Congressman Joe Morelli to the stage, and I would request Nalini Dogra as well as Consul Shruti Pandey to come and present the Shawl of Honor to Congressman Joe Morelli. Please. Sorry, because of technical issue, a lamp could not be put there, so we have to put it there, and I don't want the photograph for the lamp. Joe, please come. And they will come around here. A little anxious already. This is called the Shawl of Honor. It's the Asian culture. When you have eminent people gracing your occasion, you invite them and honor them with the shawl. This is the big war medal. Now, may I invite Director Sarah Jesse to the stage to honor the shawl and present it to Dr. Madhuvanti Ghose. May I invite Honorable Joe Morelli to come and say a few words to the audience. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's nice to see everyone here. I spent a few moments earlier today at the campus at RIT where they have their Imagine Festival, thousands of people there, and someone said, couldn't you bring good weather? I said, well, if you have an indoor event, this is good weather. Because otherwise we'd find all the reasons to do those projects around the house that we've been putting off, like cutting the lawn and doing the garden and all that. Things I don't know anything about. But anyway, and if you saw my lawn, you'd know why. But I am so grateful for the invitation to be here, and first to thank you to Dr. Vikram Dagra of the Dagra Art Foundation, and to the Memorial Art Gallery. Where is Sarah? Sarah, you've joined an amazing, amazing place. We're happy to have you here in Rochester. It's such an extraordinary institution, so we're grateful for all the work that the Memorial Art Gallery does. And I want to thank the curators and experts who have joined us, as I understand, literally or remotely. They are some extraordinary individuals, and I had a chance to review most of the names of the people who are joining us, so we're very grateful to them. Particularly excited to be here with our guest speaker today, Madhuvanti Ghose from the Chicago Art Institute. And we had a chance to chat a little bit about the work that she's doing, and in particular, and I know people want to hear from her, but to hear from the experts, but to touch for just a moment on today's conversation of bridging the continents through art. And I think when you're in the kind of position that I have the privilege of serving in the United States Congress, and you look at what's going on not only around America, but around the world, and so much of the challenges that we face, and the difficulty in unifying people, and the difficulty in keeping peace and dealing with conflict in a way that can be constructive. There's great frustration, I think, in the world. I think all of us as Americans feel that. And what I love so much about the arts and culture and the arts community is the way that we can bring people together through shared experience, and it helps transcend our differences and find common ground. And I can't think of something more important in this world today than activities and endeavors that bring us together and that unify us. And the arts uplift us and give us hope and inspiration. So it's really exciting to be here. And I had the chance many years ago when I was in the state legislature. I was the chair of the standing committee on something called Tourism, Arts, and Sports Development, which I'll admit sounds like a kind of an interesting group of things to put together, but I spent a lot of time in our museums and cultural institutions in New York, from Buffalo to New York City, and certainly spent a lot of time here in Rochester, and recognize the importance in this community to us, certainly economically, and I don't want to downplay the importance of how important it is to communities in terms of attracting folks who want to be a part of a community that has a robust arts and cultural scene, and Rochester certainly does. But just as I said, in terms of uplifting us as human, in our humanity, and to bring us together. I do have also another privilege currently as a member of Congress. I'm the ranking Democrat on the Committee on House Administration. which is another odd-sounding title, but we have responsibility and oversight over all the Smithsonian Institutes, the museums in Washington, the Botanic Garden. I might be an odd choice for all of this, but nonetheless, I have deep appreciation for it. And when you come to Washington, one of the amazing things about it is its arts and culture and history, which I think always motivates people to think about things greater than ourselves, to think about our community. And our community isn't simply a small community, it's the world community, and how do we fit within that, and how do we find, through that shared experience of art and culture, how does that bring us together and make us more human and allow us to work. So this is truly a great opportunity, and this lecture on South Asian art, in particular in Rochester, and bringing together the Nathdwara Art Foundation, the Memorial Art Gallery, and the experts who've joined us, and Dr. Ghose, all of this, I think just says a great deal about the people here who have hosted this and put this on, and it's an amazing opportunity to connect people of all backgrounds through art, fulfilling the mission of the Nathdwara Art Foundation, which its mission is to do this, to bring people together. So I'm excited to be here. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to say a few words and to be with you and to welcome Dr. Ghose and all the work that you do. I want to, one of the fun things I get to do from time to time is to thank people for their contributions, and I wanted to thank you, Dr. Nathdwara, for you and the foundation. So if I could, I have a little proclamation. It's a certificate of special congressional recognition to Dr. Nathdwara, and I won't, and the Nathdwara Art Foundation, I won't read it all to you. You can read it, but we do like to identify and to recognize and to thank people who do really special things in our community, which makes Rochester, no disrespect to Chicago or New York, built beautiful cities, but I get to be the prime cheerleader in Washington for Rochester, New York, and believe me, that is an incredible privilege, and to represent amazing institutions like yours. So thank you much. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I have a face for radio. There you go. This is the most work I've had to do to take a picture.
You have a lot of photographers here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So good afternoon again, and thank you for coming. And it's my distinct privilege and honor to introduce Dr. Madhuvanti Ghose, who has traveled from Chicago to be present among us to deliver the lecture on Bridging the Continents, Exploring South Asian Art in Service to Krishna, the artist of Nathdwara. Dr. Ghose currently serves as the curator, inaugural curator of the Alsdorf Indian, Southeast Asian, Himalayan, and Islamic Art at the Art Institute of Chicago since 2007. She completed her undergraduates in India, Kolkata, a presidency college, very famous college if you know about India. She completed her post-graduation PhD from the London University, and she did her postdoc in the Ashmolean Museum after completing her PhD, and then she became professor of Asian art at the School of the Oriental and African Studies in London, which is part of the London University. And you should not be surprised, her thesis was the origin of image worship in the South Asian countries. She launched Alsdorf Galleries of Indian, Southeast Asian and Himalayan Islamic Art at the Chicago Institute. In 2008, it's just exactly 1 year after her arrival, that speaks volumes about her hard work and dedication. And this is one of the sculptures from the gallery which is displayed there. This is Lord Murugan, otherwise known as Lord Karthikeya, and otherwise known as brother of Lord Ganesha. She then launched the Indian Islamic Art Galleries in 2009. She has orchestrated series of exhibitions spotlighting the artistry of India, South Asia, serving as the vibrant platforms for fostering cultural exchange and enriching educational experiences. Her versatility is to skillfully curate various exhibitions, combining and blending the traditional, modern and contemporary art and bridging the gap in between and demonstrating an understanding of the culture. Her curation includes notable exhibitions such as Public Notice 3 by Jatish Kalat. This is the footsteps leading to the Fullerton Hall. And if you know, the Fullerton Hall is within the Chicago Art Institute. And this installation in the LED lighting was done by Jatish Kalat using the color coding of the codes which were used for post 9/11 event to depict the level of terrorism. And there is a similarity between Vivekananda's lecture on 9/11, 1893, and the 9/11, what happened in New York. So that is why this was a great event and great success. And this is the color coding which is used in the speech in the LED light shown by Jatish Kalat. Gates of the Lord is one of the biggest exhibitions, which I was also fortunate, along with my better half, to attend in Art Institute. And in this exhibition, what she did was she brought all the pichwai from India and from all over the world and showcased it in one place all at one time, and also demonstrated the technique of making the pichwai. And here you can see her standing in beautiful sari with I think she is the Nita Ambani, and she is Isha Ambani, and the previous director of the institute. And this is Ambani's or Reliance is the, I think, 7th or 8th richest family in the world. Her other exhibition, which she curated, was called India Modern. And there the paintings of the well-known artist M.A. Hossain were shown. And M.A. Hossain is considered the father of modern Indian art. And he was also the founder of the Progressive Bombay Group. There were other 3 more members in that, and that started the new modern painting era in India, and M.A. Hossain led that. And this is one of the paintings depicting the traditions of India, which was exhibited, and this was commissioned by another billionaire, Mittal family from London, and they own the steel business. This is celebrating Holi. This is celebrating the watering of the tulsi plant, otherwise known as basil plant, which we use quite often. And here you can see a celebration of Diwali and Sharad Purnima being depicted with the full moon. Dr. Ghose has a great passion to promote Indian and South Asian art in North America. To that effect, she created Vivekananda Memorial Program in collaboration with Government of India. It's a very formal program in which many artists, many exhibitions are held under the tutorship, if I can use the word, of Dr. Madhuvanti Ghose. Many curators come, a lot of exchange programs happen, This is a very formal program which is run by them and is very, very successful, and they also hold a lot of great exhibitions. And the last point, the reason it's called Vivekananda Memorial is paying homage to Swami Vivekananda, who is one of the greatest philosophers from India. He gave his lecture in this institute in 1893, 9/11. That's why she named this after him. And this is how the Art Institute looked at that time. This is the Fullerton Hall, which as it looks today. And this is the footsteps leading to that hall where Vivekananda gave his first speech, and when he addressed the Americans by saying, "Sisters and brothers of America." This is a plaque which has been installed there to commemorate the occasion. Dr. Madhuvanti Ghose has written many articles, reviews, lectures, and all that, but one of her very important books is called The Gates of the Lord. It's a must-read for Pushtimarg. Pushtimarg is the people who follow Shiranathji. That's the topic of discussion today. And it has many, many vivid pictures, hundreds of them. You will enjoy it. She also created what is called Artists of Nathdwara, and she's going to talk about it in detail because she is very much interested in preserving the ancient techniques of Indian painting and art, specifically from Nathdwara. So she created this foundation, and there are 400 artists who participate in this, and this tradition is about 400-year-old, which she is trying to preserve and help and promote these people. And this is the website. If you are interested in commissioning a pichwai, which she is going to talk about, you can visit this site and commission a pichwai for your house. Here she is with one of the founders and the president of the Artists of Nathdwara, Shri Ishwarji, facilitating her after her great success of the Gates of the Lord exhibition in Chicago, because many of the works came from Nathdwara, and these are the artists who are participating in the program, and she is helping them maintain their skills and also make their living. She has been honored with many, many awards. I'm not going to go over all of them, but just picked randomly. Breaking Barriers Award from Chicago Foundation for Women 2013. Outstanding Community Service Award from Vishwa Gujarati Samaj USA 2014. Fellowship with the Center for Curatorial Leadership 2020. She is a board member of many museums, trusts, consultant, lecturer, so forth. You can look at her in Google at your leisure time. And she is a wonderful speaker, therefore she is sought after everywhere. She currently had to choose between the two invitations. I'm happy she chose us, and she is here. Her current project is one which I want to highlight, and this is, I think, second last slide or last slide, which is a groundbreaking documentary on the art of Nathdwara. Not only it explores the practices of the art, but also delves into the crucial topic of preservation of the technique of this art. And Dogra Art Foundation is very honored to be the sponsor of this monumental documentary with her. She is a mesmerizing, dynamic, and very engaging speaker. Let's welcome and enjoy her lecture. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Well, after that extremely warm welcome, I feel like I should just go home. So, Vikram, the Dogra Foundation, the Memorial Art Gallery, thank you so much, and Congressman, thank you so much for your extremely warm welcome and your invitation to speak here today. As you know, and as Vikram just explained, it gives me tremendous pleasure always to talk about my favorite hobby horse, which is the artists of Nathdwara. So I hope you will be patient with me as I tell you why they excite me so much. And I hope by the time you leave here today, one of the things you will appreciate is that in a country like India, a subcontinent like India, where many, many, many traditions have continued to exist till the present day, the artists of Nathdwara are still special and unique, and we have to help them not just survive the 21st century, but just continue in their practice and in their incredible legacy that they are home to. So I'm going to start by showing you what is arguably the largest pichwai that was ever made. And this was made recently by an artist from Nathdwara, Raghunandan Sharma, with his family members. And I will show a video right at the end where the artist and his family members actually discuss this work so that you can actually hear from an artist and a group, and some of these artists who you will also then see during my talk today. So this was the largest pichwai that was commissioned by the Nita Ambani Cultural Center that was opened last year, and you can view it there. And another project that we did very recently was the special art issue of Architectural Digest magazine, where, as you can see, it talks about the fight to revive. I wouldn't really say resurgence, but at least our fight to try to bring the work of the artists to contemporary audiences today. And my talk will really, I hope, help you understand why this is a little bit of a challenge and a fight. In 2014, I gathered all the present working members of the artist community in this temple town because I wanted, I was curating this exhibition, and you'll see a few images of the exhibition in a minute. And I wanted people to leave the exhibition with an understanding that this was a living, breathing tradition. And so the artists gathered in December, and I'll tell you what happened after December 2014, because a lot of the talk is going to be about that. So these are the traditional hereditary artists. As Vikram has already mentioned to you, they live and work in the temple town of Nathdwara in Rajasthan, not far from the city of Udaipur. And they are to be found, and I don't know if I can find the cursor, but there you see Nathdwara. Let me see. Okay, there you go. Okay, and that's where Nathdwara is. And the little temple town of Nathdwara grew up around this temple that is dedicated to the form of Krishna, the Hindu god Krishna, called Srinathji. And I'll introduce all of that in a minute to you. And it is in these by-lanes that the artists live. And it is traditional for the temple and all the buildings that belong to the temple to be refreshed after the festival of Dasara. And so between Dasara and the New Year, which is Diwali, the artists repaint the wall murals of the temple. And these are pictures taken about a year ago. So this is something that the artists of Nathdwara do as their personal service to Krishna, to this temple. And the artists of Nathdwara were renowned in the last couple of centuries, not only for the work that they did, but also for the important mural painting traditions that they have created in and around Nathdwara. So here you're seeing one of the sites in Nathdwara, if you were to go there today, with older wall paintings. And in the area around Nathdwara as well, in Udaipur and places around Udaipur and Nathdwara, you will see incredible wall paintings that were all done by the ancestors of today's artists. And so the artists were really renowned for artists from all over India would come to Nathdwara to learn painting and the traditions of traditional Indian painting from the artists of Nathdwara. But today, if you go to Nathdwara, it's going to be difficult to see examples of that. Not only are the murals fading, but in the by-lanes, the bazaars around Nathdwara, you're going to see these kind of very gaudy, embossed images of the god Krishna in his childhood form. And it's very rare for you to see the beautiful paintings or the pichwais that I'll tell you a little bit more about in the by-lanes around the temple. In order to find the artists, you have to go behind the temple to a little hill. And in Nathdwara, everybody assesses when they came to Nathdwara according to how close they lived to the temple. So the artist community who came and lived just behind the temple in what is called Chitrakaraki Gali, or the Painter's Alley, it's like a little hill behind the temple. They are supposed to have come, at least 5 families of artists are supposed to have come with the image of Srinathji to this place around 1672. And the other group of artists who came a little bit later, like around the 19th century, they lived not that far away, but they're not the oldies. So everything is measured according to when people came and their association with Krishna in this temple town, which actually just revolves around the worship and veneration of Krishna. And all of you sitting here probably have very grand visions of art, the artiste, part of our Enlightenment vision of the way we think about the great artist. But in fact, this is how the artists of Nathdwara continue to practice. And here you see Kanhailal Sharma ji painting a pichwai, and that is how a pichwai is painted. Often they are painted in sections because their homes are not large enough to actually open up the entire pichwai, which is why you will see that largest pichwai in the world that was being painted, they actually had to hire a hall to paint it. And I'll show you that later. So I keep talking about a pichwai. What is a pichwai? So a pichwai is a painted hanging made of textile that is hung behind the sacred image of the sect. That is the form of Krishna that you see in the front. So the form of Krishna with his hand held up in the gesture of lifting Mount Govardhan is the sacred image that this sect follows. And the pichwai, think about it like a theatrical setting, because that's what it was. And here is what these pichwais look like. Now, one of the things you have to realize is the importance of painting is because you can't take photographs inside the temple. So even the paintings you're going to see, the artists are not allowed to sketch inside. They have to visually take in what they're seeing and then come home and sketch that and paint that. So photography is very, very rare. And where you have photography, like this exquisite pichwai that is completely embroidered in Zardozi with real gold and silver, the depiction of the sacred images is just a painting because you cannot show the sacred images of the sect. So a pichwai, and this is what this pichwai looked like. I did bring it to America for my exhibition, and it was a story in itself of how we brought it. Now, these very heavily brocaded, embroidered velvet pitchwais are the kind of pitchwais you would hang during the winter months, the months when it's very cold in Rajasthan. While the more common pitchwais are painted pitchwais like these. And these are hung during the summer and the rest of the year, the less important time of the year. And really, they are such incredible works of art that it makes me very sad that we're witnessing a tradition that has survived for almost 400 years dying before our eyes. And that is part of the reason that I felt so passionate about this that I curated in 2015-16 an exhibition called Gates of the Lord at the Art Institute of Chicago. And that was the occasion on which I brought the artists together to take this photograph in December 2014, before my exhibition opened. And by January of that year, we had decided to create the Artists of Nathdwara with the artists. And during COVID, we were extremely busy because, as you can imagine, COVID impacted India extremely badly. And in temple towns like Nathdwara, which is based on pilgrims coming, Vaishnavas actually coming there, they had no business for months. And then there was, of course, complete lockdown. So the artists were absolutely right down to the basics. And in the middle of that, a group of students from a college in India volunteered with me, and we relaunched the website. And that was the website that Dr. Dogra was telling you all about. So anyway, I've been talking about Srinathji and Krishna, so let's hear a little bit about this form of the sacred image that came to Nathdwara in 1672. So Srinathji is this very particular form of Krishna with his hand held up high. Krishna, of course, is the 8th incarnation of Hindu god Vishnu. And we are very familiar, or some of us are, of seeing Krishna playing the flute. Well, that environment in which Krishna played the flute is what is called, you see this area in the map of India called Vraj, which is in a slightly darker shade of brown. It is in that area that Krishna is said to have been brought up. He was born in a prison because his parents had been locked up by his uncle. And Krishna, overnight, was spirited away in the middle of a storm across the river Yamuna to this bucolic landscape of Vraj, which is where he grew up as a cowherd amongst cowherds, until later on he comes back and kills his uncle and frees up the local people. So into this landscape of Vraj came this person, Vallabhacharya, who then lands up founding the Pushtimarg sect, or the Path of Grace sect, amongst the Vaishnavas, the followers of Vishnu and Krishna. And he comes to this region, like a lot of other people in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, trying to look for the sites associated with Krishna's life. And one of the great feats of the young Krishna was when he lifted up the little mountain that you can still see there today, called Govardhan. And he protected the cowherds from the wrath of the god Indra and persuaded the cowherds to actually start worshipping the hill from where they got all their living, since they were cowherds. And Vallabhacharya comes to that hill, and he then finds this sacred image, which is the image of Srinathji that today you see venerated in Nathdwara. And it is on this hill that he put up the first temple. Eventually, Vallabha's son and his grandsons had built up lots of temples in this area with all the sacred images that belong to the sect, including the sacred one of Srinathji that we just saw. And within the sect, you don't think about the image, these sacred images, as an idol, because these are regarded as self-eminent images. So they are sacred images, they are swarups, they are the living embodiment of the god Krishna. And so these sacred images were divided between Vallabha's grandsons. He had 7 of them. And each of them had their own little temple with their own sacred image. But such as Mathureshji of Kota, Dwarkadhishji of Kakroli. And eventually this region of Vraj came under a lot of attacks. And the descendants of Vallabhacharya felt that their temples could be next. So they basically hid their sacred images and went into the neighboring area of what is today Rajasthan. And there the sacred images found sanctuary. And in the case of Srinathji, they had hidden him because he was the most important of all the sacred images of the sect, and they had hidden him in a bullock cart, and the bullock cart got stuck on the road to Udaipur, and the place that it got stuck in the mud, they felt that that was Krishna's wish to stay there, and that place is called Sinhar, and Nathdwara, which means the gates of the Lord, grew around this sacred image and the temple that eventually came up there. So this is what the temple looks like today. We don't really call it a temple. I'm using it just for ease. This is called the Haveli or the Nandalaya of Krishna, meaning it's the home of Krishna. So it's like a recreation of that area where he grew up, Vraj, in Rajasthan. And the form of Krishna that you're seeing as Srinathji lifting up Mount Govardhan is a child Krishna, a Krishna who is around 7-8 years old. And so how would you treat your child who is 7-8 years old? You would pamper your child, you would, gently wake him up on winter mornings, you would shower him with praise, you would decorate him and give him new clothes every 5 minutes. And that is essentially what happens in Nathdwara. There are 7-8 times of the day when Krishna is venerated with what is called seva, or loving service to him. And he is entertained with music that is appropriate to the time of day. He is offered food that is appropriate to the season and the time of day, and shringar, which is called adornment. So he is adorned according to the time of day and the season. So for example, in the summer, when it's very, very, very hot, the adornment of the shrine as well as of Krishna is all in white, the thinnest of muslins. Water is poured on the marble floors to keep Krishna cool. And fragrant flowers are offered to him. So this is a bower made of roses, so to keep him cool and scented. And this is the time of the year when Krishna would frolic in the many tanks and ponds in the river Yamuna in the Vraj region. So that is being recreated in the pichwais that you offer at this time of the year. And of course, gorgeous lace pichwais and pichwais in very soft colors evoke this sense of play in the river. And then you slowly ease from summer into the monsoon season, which is much awaited. And that is when, there's a lovely breeze, just as the monsoon rains are coming, and you're swinging in your, swings that come up in the gardens. And that is the time when you show pichwais like this with the peacocks, because Krishna himself was like a little peacock. So that is being evoked in these peacocks. And peacocks, of course, dance as the rains are coming. This is also the time of his birth, which is celebrated with great joy at the temple. And then comes the autumn and the big harvest moon. And this is a time of great poetry. And again, these all-white pichwais are shown at this time. And some of the biggest festivals of the sect happen at this time, including Sharad Purnima, which is when you dance the Ras, which is the circular dance, where under the full moon, Krishna danced with all these cowherdesses, where every single cowherdess or gopi thought that Krishna was only dancing with her. And then comes the festival of Gopashtami, which is when Krishna first became a cowherd. And you will see some spectacular pechwais that show Krishna as a cowherd. And then in the winter months, you have these very, very rich brocades and velvets that come out in bright colors because it gets very, very cold in Nathdwara. And then, of course, comes spring, and that's the time of Holi. And so you play Holi with Krishna. And this goes on for days, 30, 40 days of celebrating with Krishna, culminating in the festival of Holi. And then the whole cycle starts all over again. Now, who were the people who were patronizing these artists? Well, what we have understood, at least at the beginning, was that the big patrons were the heads of the sect. So they're called Tilkayats, and they were the force, to be honest. They were the tastemakers and the family members who were all descended from Vallabhacharya, the founder of the sect. And so they had their own houses with their own sacred images, and they were essentially the people patronizing. But out of them, there were a couple of people who really stand out. And I'm just going to point out a couple of those people. So there was a Tilkayat in the early part of the 19th century called Damodarji II, popularly called Dauji Maharaj, who was very powerful. All the local rulers from the neighboring states like Kota, Mewar, which is the state of Udaipur, Jodhpur, and other places, they would all come to Dauji Maharaj to get him to resolve their problems. And this is the period when a very unique style of painting starts to evolve in Nathdwara, which today we call the Nathdwara School of Art. And the other patrons were, of course, the heads of some of the important temples, like the temple at Kankroli, which is not very far, or the priests in the temple at Mathura. And you can see exquisite paintings emerging at this time, and some of the most beautiful pechwais as well, because they were connoisseurs, they were rasics, and therefore the kind of painting that you see emerging in the early part of the 19th century is truly remarkable for what is a temple town. And then the high watermark, the period that changed Nathdwara forever, was the period when Govardhan Lalji was the head of the temple. Govardhan Lalji becomes the head of the temple at a very young age of 15, 16 years old. And he transforms the artist from what was essentially a nameless artistic tradition to one where you start to, for the first time, see the names of artists, and you start to see that they have a particular style. And of course, this is also a time at the turn of the century, between the 19th and early part of the 20th century, when there's a lot of Western influence, Victoriana, postcards and drawings and all kinds of, and new pigments come into India, and not just India, but to this temple town as well. With its many artists. And so you start to see the transformation take place in the paintings that they're making. So here, of course, you have photography, and many of the artists actually were photographers as well. And now they start to emerge from the kind of the darkness, if you like. And so again, I showed you at the beginning an artist painting today. There isn't much difference from the late 19th, early 20th century to the present day in the way that the artists paint. This is the artist, one of them is Narayan, and we'll see a couple of works by him, and later on by his descendants. So this is what I mean about the Western influence that is coming in through postcards and other types of art, which then the artists are emulating for their new patrons. Because now not only is the Tilkayat, the head of the sect, interested in painting and the other houses, but now you have merchants who are getting wealthy in cities like Bombay or Ahmedabad, who are all followers of this sect, who are then coming and getting commissions. Or if a slightly poorer follower is coming, they want to have a little manorat, a little kind of memory of their visit to Nathdwara, because it's a big deal to come all the way to Nathdwara to see Thakurji, to see Srinathji. One of the important artists to emerge at this time, who then becomes the head of the artists of Nathdwara, is Sukhdev Kishandas. And Sukhdev, as you can see, starts to bring in perspective. And he is often, many of his works show the celebrations in the temple, within the temple, as you can see in this example of Govardhan Lalji's birthday celebrations. And again, I remind you that none of the artists were allowed to sketch inside the temple. So this is all being done from memory afterwards. And grand pitchwais are being created. This is a massive pitchwai that I brought to Chicago for our exhibition, and we suspect that it could be by Sukhdev. And Sukhdev's family continues to function in Nathdwara, and this is one of his descendants today who's doing both traditional work as well as contemporary tradition-based work. Perhaps the artist that was the most renowned at this time is somebody called Ghasi Ram Sharma. And Ghasi Ram, as you can see, from his sketchbook, which he often did to not just keep his hand going, but also to entertain the young kids from the artist families. Ghasi Ram was a rare person in that he belonged to the other sect. I talked about the sect of artists who live close to the temple, who came, who are descended from the time when Srinathji came to Nathdwara around 1672. But the later artists who came in the 19th century, they're from a different community called Jangirs. So Ghasi Ram was so incredibly talented that he became the head of the artists, which was a rare thing from someone from this Jangir community. And he was, tremendously impacted by a relative by marriage, Kundan Lal, who worked for the court of Udaipur, the Maharana of Udaipur, that is not very far away. Kundan Lal was sent to the Slade in Britain to study by the Maharana of Udaipur. And this was also a time when Raja Ravi Varma, the great portraitist artist from Kerala, came to the court of Udaipur and painted the great Maharana Pratap. And also, in fact, the Tilkayat, Govardhan Lalji. So the way in which Raja Ravi Varma was treated had a huge impact on the artists of Nathdwara who'd come all the way to Udaipur to see him, because he was like feted. He was very famous by this time. And Kundan Lal, who had newly minted from the Slade, was also telling the artists and his relatives about the way artists were treated in London, in Britain. So this obviously did have an impact on Ghasi Ram and his work. And you see, for example, in this sketch, which is based on Raja Ravi Varma's Hans Damayanti, that he's impressed by what he's seeing in the Udaipur court. He's very aware of the trends and fashions that are out there. So, for example, in his Radha, you see again that 19th, early 20th century postcard art, the popular art that is popular prints, popular postcards that is coming into Nathdwara from outside. And amongst the many, many paintings, you see, for example, this large painting of his showing the celebration of the festival of Gopashtami. And you see the realism that is coming into Ghasi Ram's work. Ghasi Ram could paint in all kinds of media. He could turn his hands to jewelry, to carving, to doing massive murals, like you can see in Jhalawar that he did. And he had 2 stints as the head of the artists at Nathdwara for the temple. And one of his descendants who recently passed away was Reva Shankarji, who was really like a father figure to the artists of Nathdwara today. And a third of the important artists of this time under Govardhan Lalji was Champalal Hiralal. Champalal spent much of his time working for the temple in Bombay, present-day Mumbai, because this was, under the British, had become such a hub for business. And so there were a lot of rich Pushtimarg traders and business people who lived in Bombay and in the hinterland around Bombay. And therefore, the temple, the Mota Mandir in Bombay became very important and very wealthy. And so they were able to actually hire artists from Nathdwara who came and lived there and were able to practice. And in this painting, which is in a private collection in India, you can see one of these wealthy patrons. You can see her Mantubai. She's the one who's actually facing us on the far side. And it is this manorat that she creates, which means that it's like her wish fulfillment, that she's having, this manorat created at the temple of the baby Krishna in the Srinathji complex in Nathdwara. And then she's having Champalal paint her manorat, her festival, as a commemoration, which she then takes home. So Champalal's descendants, again, are very important family in Nathdwara today. And the current head of the artists of Nathdwara, the painting Mukherjee, is Parmanand Sharma, who is descended from Champalal. Within the family of these artists, people like Parmanandji, you have the most incredible archives. They have all the books, they have with the original drawings and sketches. This is what, imagine an artist has gone to view the temple and comes home and quickly sketches it so that he can make something for his clients afterwards. And glass negatives, so you see the early use of photography. And it truly, Nathdwara is special on so many different terms. But at this time also, you see commercialization come into Nathdwara. And you can see that in the fact that a studio is created by these people, Khubiram and Gopilal, where they are actually catering to those Vaishnavas who are coming from those business communities to Nathdwara on a special visit. And then when they're going back, they're taking a little memento back with them of their visit. And this is what would be hung in their homes and treated as a special memento from their visit to the temple, so a kind of relic that they take back. But what is fascinating with this studio is you see that often the faces are actually photographs. And so they had the setting already created. It's like early photography with sets. So the setting was already created commercially, and then you just plunk in the patrons. So a quick and easy way. And this studio still continues without Gopilal. He became separate after a while, and Khubiram's family continued to run their studio right down to today. The person who bridged between Govardhan Lalji and the present day was an artist called Narottam Narayan. He was the son of Narayan, with whom we started at the beginning. He is the person who you don't know, but who is behind India's very popular calendar art that starts to emerge from the 20s and 30s onwards. So he's the artist who whose work is commercialized by companies like Brijvasi and Co. and others. And some of the most popular calendar art that many people have in their home shrines is actually by Narottam Narayan. He was a student of Ghasi Ram. He's Narayan's son. And you see him playing with, again, those early drawings and prints that are coming in from Europe. But he's, of course, using them to tell the story of Krishna. And important works like this starts to go into the commercial market and then becomes the most popular thing ever. And a descendant from this family is Lalit Sharma, who Dr. Dogra and his family know very well. He studied, in proper art school and does these very large canvases. And his son, Kapil Sharma, works with digital media and is very inspired by the art of Nathdwara, but prefers to work on it using digital techniques. And here are a couple of examples of of his work. And here is a work that if you are ever in the Terminal 2 in the airport, the international airport in Bombay, in Mumbai, the Chhatrapati Shivaji International Airport, you will see a work where father and son have done together. And just to finish off, just so that you realize that this is a living, breathing tradition, here's Rajaram Sharma, one of the very well-known Pichwai artists practicing today. He's an example of his work in a private collection in America. And we saw these beautiful wall paintings done by Kanhaiya Lalji from Nathdwara in Dungarpur, which is not very far away. And that is his descendant, Yogendra Sharma, who's doing a lot of work for the temple nowadays. And in a very male-dominated field, there are women artists emerging where fathers are teaching their daughters when they show interest. And amongst them is Madhuri Sharma and her sister Taruni, who have been who studied with their father and are doing incredible work. They're very rare and therefore need a lot of support from us, but it is wonderful to see some women artists emerging too. At this point, I'd like you to hear from the artists. So for those of you who don't understand Hindi, I would request you to read what is written at the base, but I think you will get the message of the story from the video.
इस पिछवे को बनाने के लिए हमने पारंपरिक कपड़े का इस्तेमाल किया, कॉटन कपड़ा, इसमें प्राकृतिक रंगों का प्रयोग किया गया। पिछवे के बारीक काम को करने के लिए पीढ़ियों से चली आ रही रंग बनाने की तकनीक का प्रयोग किया है। पिछवे में 24 कैरेट सोने का इस्तेमाल किया। पिछवे बनाने की यह पद्धति हमारे परिवार में पीढ़ियों से चली आ रही है।
पिछवे को भव्य बनाने के साथ ही हमने पिछवे के काम की बारीकियों को बनाए रखा है और कोमलता को बनाए रखा है, जिसके लिए पिछवे मशहूर है और जानी जाती है। पिछवे के सुनहरे किनारे और मोर में हमने बारीकियों का समावेश किया है। ये रंग जो यूज़ किए वो मंत्रमुग्ध करते हैं और फूलों से जो आकृतियाँ बनी है वह लगभग समाधिस्थ कर देती है।
नाथद्वारा के कलाकारों की पिछवे बनाने की परंपरा को जब बड़ी संख्या में लोग देखेंगे तो इस कला को नई पहचान मिलेगी। पिछवे पेंटिंग बहुत बारीकी से बनाई जाती है क्योंकि ये भगवान कृष्ण को समर्पित है। हमारे लिए बड़े गर्व की बात है कि इतने बड़े मेहनत से बना हमारा यह काम मुंबई की प्रतिष्ठित जगह पर लगा है, जहाँ समाज के अलग अलग तबकों के विभिन्न हिस्सों से लोग आकर हमारी पारंपरिक कलाकृति को देखेंगे। कोविड की परीक्षा की घड़ी में परंपरागत कलाकारों को कठिनाइयों का सामना करना पड़ा। अब एक नई आशा जगी है और इस पारंपरिक कला को और फिर से रुचि बढ़ेगी।
So I think for those of you who could hear the artists and understand the artists speak, I think it is for all of us now to help the artists who have kept a tradition alive for so many centuries to survive the present one And in the past, their support came from the temple, the heads of these different temples of the sect. But today, it's really all of us. And so I would like to urge all of you to look at a Peshwai with different eyes when you happen upon one, and help us actually to preserve all of these incredible traditional arts that have survived, because contemporary art isn't of only one sort. It is also when it is tradition-based. And in South Asia, we don't do enough to help preserve and get our traditional contemporary arts better known, so that these artists are known as individual artists. And part of my work with the artists of Nathdwara is so that each of you know the hand of the artist who has made the work for you. They cannot go back into anonymity again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ghose, for a wonderful presentation. There is a lot to absorb. I'm sure you may have a lot of questions to ask. So the floor is open to questions. Please feel free to ask a question. Raise your hand, and then we'll pass the mic to you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really beautiful. How can we support creating exhibits here where individuals like the artists you just showed, like Mr. Shmarma and especially his daughter, that would be incredible to have an exhibit of women artists. How do we make that possible?
You talk to your local institution, and then you just reach out to us. We are happy to work with everybody. We are trying to work with people. I go around, on my weekends, telling people about the artists and how incredible they are. I think it really requires all of you to speak up and want to see it in your local museums or in your local cultural centers or homes or whatever. And you'll see it if you get involved. The entire Artists of Nathdwara is run by volunteers. You saw that during COVID, we a group of college students in India volunteered to create the website. So none of us are actually doing this for any other, with anything else in mind. For the artists, they get involved and they do the commissions for Artists of Nathdwara, because they want this tradition to continue. They want the world to know about it. But it is really hard because even Indians don't really understand the Peshwai or the Artists of Nathdwara. They barely know where Nathdwara is. So it is really important that we all help get it better known. And even in a country like India, where so many traditions have survived, there is no other place where there are more living artists than in Nathdwara, even today, despite the state of things there. So get involved, talk to your local communities, get involved with your local museums, and.
So as you spoke, hi Vikram. This is amazing what you're doing here. So a couple of things that came to mind is, have you talked to the artists about actually doing merchandise and I know at Vikram's home with A. Ramachandran's work, pillow cushions or, beautiful books and things of that nature, and then having, do you have a bookstore or art gallery, things of that nature?
So, one of the challenges that we face is since my exhibition in 2015, and suddenly, because of the support that I had from the Reliance Foundation, the Peshwai got on a lot of people's radar, but unfortunately those people were from outside not from within Nathdwara. So they then started to copy the work in other places, including the merchandising. So literally, if you go to Delhi or Bombay or Ahmedabad today, you will see a lot of things with cows on them, for example. But they're not produced by us. They're not produced by the artists of Nathdwara. They're produced by every little designer coming out of design school. So, this is very frustrating for us because on one hand, you'll see the cows everywhere, but on the other hand, none of that is actually benefiting us. It's benefiting, the commercial units who are behind these things. So something that is so kind of like layered and problematic, it's not that we are not wanting to create merchandise, but everything happens in Nathdwara through commission. Because a work, depending on how many days it takes to do the work, that is how the artist charges. So even for the commercial merchandising to be produced, we need to pay the artists. So even the organization, we pay our artists. Whoever is doing, so for example, we're creating some work for an exhibition next year. We want to use many artists of Nathdwara so that the work kind of gets distributed. But we want to use as many types of artists as possible. But even for merchandising, we would need to have somebody like back it. So once we know that that order is confirmed, then we can actually go and produce it. So it works in that fashion. It's not like we don't have a shop where you can just go and pick up whatever, because it has always been by commission, and that is the way the artists still work today. If you want commercial work, you'll see like the bazaar stuff that I showed at the beginning. That's what you will get in the bazaars, and that's unfortunately what a lot of people walk away with because it's available.
How about...
So we have more questions. Liz, you can talk to her at the tea time. That would be wonderful.
Dr.
Question,
Ghose,
please.
can
Yes.
you hear me? So my question is, what brought you to that Nathdwara?
That's a really good question.
So can you please repeat the question she asked?
Of course. So the question was, what brought me to Nathdwara? What got me interested in Nathdwara in the first place? So my mother was an artist, and she, like a lot of very well-known artists, including Ramachandranji, they have always known about the artists of Nathdwara. Nathdwara was very special for artists. So we were on a little family trip when I was very young. And my mother, we were in Udaipur and nearby, and she insisted on us going to Nathdwara. And because she wanted pigments from there, because the artists had amazing pigments that they made naturally. And so I remember going to see the temple and being absolutely awestruck by the splendor and the beauty. It just, no one who can go to Nathdwara can come away, unchanged. But way back later, when I was studying in Britain, I had the great fortune to be able to study the religious texts and the sect, and I got fascinated by its aesthetic traditions. But more recently, I went back to Nathdwara in 2011-ish, and I was horrified by what I saw in the bazaar. I showed you some of those works, and then I spent a bit of time, talking to artists and their families, and most of them said to me in Hindi that, especially the wives, that Nathdwara is changing so rapidly. There's this new expressway coming, and my son, I don't want him to become an artist. And this is from a family that have always been artists, because my son is studying in Bangalore or wherever, and he's going to be, something else. And while the husbands would sheepishly say, no, this is still a very important thing, I came away so disturbed from that visit that it stayed with me for a very long time. And I kept saying, and I remember writing in my journal at the time that, oh gosh, somebody needs to do something about this, because this tradition that I've seen from childhood is dying before my eyes. And then after a very long time, back in Chicago, it occurred to me that had to be me, because for whatever reason, I knew this tradition, I'd studied it, I'd written papers on it. And so that's how my journey began. And as you can see, my exhibition finished many years ago, and I'm still coming on my weekends to talk about the artists of Nathdwara.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. Now, I would invite Director Sarah Jesse to kindly present the plaque for her contribution to this visit. May I invite Director of Asian Affairs, Sibbu Nair, to kindly come and present the certificate of special citation from Governor Kathy Hochul to Dr. Madhuvanti Ghose.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not scheduled to speak, but I just grabbed the mic. Sorry. Let's give a round of applause to our wonderful curator and the co-founders of Dog Art Foundation, Dr. Dograji and Naliniji. Thank you for bringing this wonderful artist to New York. I know we have some prominent individuals here. Our Councilman Naveen, Congressman just left, and Shruti Pandey from the consulate. I don't want to take too much time, but just want to give a special citation from the governor's office. When it comes to citations from the office, it takes time, but they understand your work. The governor really appreciates that you came to New York for this wonderful gathering. So, thank you. Can I request the founders and Naveen, Shruti Pandey, please join. Naliji, please come on. And of course, the director of MAG. Thank you.
Everyone is invited to join us in the pavilion for samosa and tea. I'd also like to invite you to walk around the galleries. Make sure you check out our immersive installation by Yayoi Kusama, which closes shortly, so check that out before it leaves. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to the Dogra Art Foundation, and thank you to our wonderful scholar. Thank you.